Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Boxing Trash Talk. Here is where I give my unique analysis on upcoming fights. Today, we want to talk about, is this a must-win fight for Amir Khan? And what is Bomac's plan to defeat Kell Brook for a second time? I watched the interview the other day with Bomac where he believes that he can defeat Kell Brook for a second time. And, naturally this time it's with Amir Khan. So, naturally it's going to be two different approach, two different fighters, Terence Crawford, Amir Khan. So, it is going to be pretty interesting to see what type of game plan that Bomac comes up with for Amir Khan's specific talents. You understand the talents of Crawford to Amir Khan, naturally we know that's very, very different. They're capable of completely different things. So we'll see what plan that Bomac came up with to defeat Kell Brook. And it also, really today's topic is about, is this a must-win fight for Amir Khan? And I will explain as I go along, which I believe it is very much a must-win fight for Amir Khan. It is more so a must-win fight for Amir Khan as it is for Kell Brook. Now, Kell Brook wants to win this fight, but the person that must win this fight is Amir Khan, because we all tend to forget the past or the history of a fighter, and we base most of the times we look at that last significant fight, and that pretty much will cement his legacy, of where he stood among British boxers and as a world champion or a competitor. So I pretty much, when I look at this Kell Brook Amir Khan fight, for Amir Khan, I see it being a fight similar to a Danny Garcia fight. Now, what are the similarities between Danny Garcia and Kell Brook? One is, they both can counter punch. Kell Brook and Danny Garcia can counter punch. They have good timing. They are strong, and they have a pretty good jab. Now, the only big difference there is Danny Garcia can take a punch, where Kell Brook, we see, does have his little weaknesses there. It's not saying that that Kell Brook cannot take a punch, but I believe he has a lot of hurting that was done to him in his last few fights, and now he's vulnerable. And having an eye injury gives Amir Khan an advantage. Now, to take advantage of that type of a Danny Garcia, so we're comparing Kell Brook to Danny Garcia, so to that kind of Garcia who has all of those, but he can be hurt and you can gain respect if you sit on your punches. Here is what I believe that what type of Amir Khan has to show up that night. On that night, the Amir Khan that fought Canelo for those first couple of rounds, that means with respect, short combinations, good movement, is the type of Amir Khan is going to need to show up. With that movement and that seriousness and that respect, he must be that fighter. He must be the guy that showed up to fight Canelo. He must also be the guy with the Devin, compared to the Devin Alexander fight, where he was doing short combinations, good movement, and was gaining respect. At times, he was sitting on his punches. So that is the combination of the two fights that I believe, can put him ahead in this game. Now, let's talk. So I'm comparing Kell Brook to a Danny Garcia. I expect it to be a similar fight. I expect it to be very, very similar to that fight. And I do expect the Amir Khan that can beat the Kell Brook will be one that fought Canelo and the one that fought a Devin Alexander. Now, Bomac's plan. I think from what I understand, and I hope the time that Amir Khan spent with Bomac wasn't too short, I believe Bomac concentrates on strength, conditioning, and fitness. I think that is his key to being able to implement any type of plan that you come up with. So he wants his fighters to be strong, and he wants them to be fit. And I think, as you can see from Terence Crawford's fight, Terence Crawford's been working a long time with Bomac. So naturally, that training, he's used to that training, where Amir Khan, I believe was too short of a time, and hope he didn't overtrain, because it was hard training. Let's hope he didn't overtrain. So going back to Bomac's plan, I believe Bomac is going to be, like I said, working on Amir Khan's fitness, the best fitness I believe Amir Khan will ever be in. I think Bomac will teach Amir Khan how to sit on his punches. You know, that's going to be very, very important for Amir Khan to gain that respect from Kell Brook early. He must gain respect early from Kell Brook. Now, he must also concentrate on his eye. He must concentrate on Kell Brook's eye. And I think the other thing which is going to be important is not to get greedy. Amir Khan cannot get greedy in this fight. 1-2, 1-2-3, or 1-2-1 out of there. So I believe a Bomac's plan is going to be pretty much, you know, making sure Amir Khan is fit, making sure he can movements, maybe give angles, different angles on his jab. I believe he's going to teach him not to get too greedy so that he doesn't get countered or get into trouble. I believe they should have a plan. They should and must have a plan to concentrate on working that eye of Kell Brook. You know, jabbing him really keeping that jab there. Now, one thing I believe Bomac should have taught Amir was there's only one way to defeat timing. You know, Kell Brook has good timing, good counter, good timing. The only way you can defeat timing, you must defeat it by feints. Amir Khan cannot use, if Amir Khan doesn't feint, he's going to be countered. He must feint, and he cannot use the same type of feint, which is feint, jab, or feint, 1-2, feint. No, you just can't, you know, he has to mix it up. He probably got to do feint, you know, jab, feint, whatever. But he has to mix up his feint so he cannot be read by Kell Brook. So, and that's what I think, you know, but Amir Khan is taking a lot into the fight too. I believe, you know, I believe, you know, that if Amir Khan is really prepared mentally and physically and does give Kell Brook respect, he must give Kell Brook respect. I think he has a good chance in this fight. Now, like I said, if you look back, you know, I compared the fight with Danny Garcia and Amir Khan. If you look after the first round of Danny Garcia against Amir Khan and the second round, that is when, you know, Danny Garcia's father was able to tell him, look, man, Amir Khan is picking you apart. You need to get in there and concentrate and do your thing, which was simply timing, you know, timing Amir Khan. And you can see by the third round, if you watch exactly the third round, you're going to see that Danny Garcia, if he thought Amir Khan was moving, he threw a left hook. If he thought Amir Khan was going to move, he threw a right hook. So he was simply going to try to beat him in his movement to counter. So he just took chances and he got lucky. Yes, I do consider it he got lucky in that punch because, yes, he was timing, but, you know, he was, you know, close your eyes, put your head down and throw the left hook, you know. So I think if he didn't connect with that punch, he probably would have connected some other time in the fight, but the fight would have probably been different because he was, you know, he was starting to get bloody a little bit. Now why I believe Amir Khan must win this fight, like I said, we always as, you know, as spectators and fans of boxing, you know, we always tend to look at the fight and the one significant fight, we kind of remember that one. There are times, you know, there's two things that happen. There's one significant fight that somebody may lose, like this one, not a title fight, but a grudge match. And that can make a big, big difference, where at times you will find even the greatest boxers in this world will find their match sooner or later. And we tend to accept that, you know. Recently, you know, we can talk about Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder. Deontay just met his match. You know, that one guy that always gets the best of you. You know, Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, and many more we can talk about. Now, I think Amir Khan's legacy depends on this fight. Yes, he had a very good, we can say he had a very good career. I think Kell Brook did too. Kell Brook did not, I will have to accept that Kell Brook didn't do as much as Amir Khan did. And besides that, we forget that he was a 17-year-old amateur silver medalist. That is not easy. If you understand amateur boxing, you don't choose who you fight. You're going to be fighting the next guy. The next good guy is going to be that guy. And to come to the amateurs like that and at 17 becoming a silver medalist, don't ever take that away from him. We must credit Amir Khan very, very, very much for that. And we were talking about if Amir Khan was a little bit more resistible to punching power, he would probably go a long way. No, he is who he is. I mean, that is the Amir Khan. Amir Khan could defeat anybody, so long, there were coaches out there that I believe, or maybe Amir Khan didn't concentrate enough to know, how to bring his, his strengths forward and be able to work on his weaknesses in a way that nobody would connect to him. And most of the times people connect to him people don't realize that if Amir Khan sees the punch, yeah, he gets hurt, but he's not that badly hurt. It's the ones that he doesn't see that hurts him. And he gets that when he gets greedy. When he gets greedy, he gets hurt. Now, the good thing is, so this fight is very important. I believe it's very important. We're 4 days away for the fight. I can't wait to see it. I'm actually going to be trying to commentary on that fight that day. But Amir Khan is bringing a lot. He's bringing his amateur experience. Freddie Roach, there's a couple of things that Amir Khan needs to take into his fight from all his coaches. Freddie Roach, the aggressiveness of Freddie Roach, he needs to take there, but don't take the combinations too long. Virgil Hunter, the calmness that Virgil Hunter brings into a fight, he needs to take that with him. Joe Gosden, we know he's bold. You understand? He goes in there, he trains his fighters to be bold. So the aggressiveness of a Freddie Roach, the calmness of a Virgil Hunter, the boldness, at times he's got to be bold. And Bomac. I think what Bomac brings to Amir Khan is that fitness to execute. And then having Crawford there also in the camp, I believe they're working on power. What Amir Khan never realized, that all he ever needed in some of these fights was to sit on a solid 1-2. Because I always believed that Amir Khan had power, and no one never taught him that if you had somebody unbalanced, then you should really, really give them your power. And I believe people say you cannot work on power. Yes, you can. Yes, especially in Amir Khan's situation. He just needs to sit on the punches. And, don't sit on all of them, but know when to sit on them. And he would have gained that respect. And in this fight is very important to Amir Khan, that he gains that respect in the first 2 rounds, and then the fight will go his way. Now, and I believe Bomac is going to work on Amir Khan power. I think they're going to make him strong, very strong, and he is going to have power. The power in this fight, not his speed. I believe Amir Khan's power in this fight can make a difference if he executes, what we talked about, the feinting, the going in and out, not long combinations, don't get greedy, and those things. Now, we know the flaws of Amir Khan. He needs to, we know, we're not going to talk about the technical flaws of Amir Khan, but what we're going to talk about is that he should not get greedy. He should not get greedy in his combinations. He should respect Kell Brook. He must gain respect from Kell Brook early, and he must, I think Amir Khan needs to stop being like a busybody fighter, and start believing that he's much more a greater fighter than people give him credit for. Accept his little flaws and play to his strengths and use his strengths. You can have strength like he have his speed, but it's always been used the wrong way. Early in his career that was fine, but I think that his career, as he matured, he should have used it in a different way. So again, here are the things I think Amir Khan must do. He must jab in 2 speeds, not jabbing with the same speed, jab with a slower speed, expect a counter, and then to counter the counter. He needs to sit on his punches, he needs to feint. Look, the secret of Amir Khan winning this fight is going to be feints. He's got to feint so much, and then gaining respect in the fight would be the second most important thing. So feints, gaining respect from Kell Brook by sitting on a 1-2, and I think concentrating on Kell Brook's eye. Those are the 3 main things he needs to do. Now, what Amir Khan cannot do is don't get greedy. don't use your hand to block any jab to the body. He must circle right. Don't stand in front of Kell Brook and save energy. If he just throws a combination 1-2 or 1-2-1, he's going to be saving energy. So he doesn't have to go over there and park in the corner after a combination so he can get an next breath. You understand? So let me know. Now going back, I do believe that this is one of Amir Khan's biggest. I think this is the biggest fight. This fight is probably even bigger than his first championship fight. I think he must win this fight. And I think he needs to understand you get one chance in a life sometimes to cement your legacy, and this is it for him. And he really needs to do it. He needs to get that retirement play rumor circulating in his head, push that aside, and finally stand there and use what he has, his gifts that he was given to him, and his development with all those good trainers that he had, and put it to work. And then cement his legacy that the great rivalry is now come to an end. Put aside all that 10 years too late and all of that. They're still 35. Crawford is 35 and still fighting at the highest level. So it's not that 35 and the fight is too late. I don't believe at all this fight is too late. What did we want to see then? We would have saw, if the fight happened 10 years ago, you would have probably seen two young men running at each other, with all these things in their head. Today I think we'll have a very technical fight, and who wants it most is the one that's going to win this fight. All right, let me know what you all think. Must Amir Khan win this fight? Does he have to win this fight? Is it important that he wins this fight? And what will it do for his legacy? Please comment and let me know, and please subscribe to my channel. Thank you.